Praise God. I'm Pastor David A. Shaw, Monument of Hope and Deliverance, where hope changes everything. We're continuing forth with the reading in the book of Genesis. Where we left off is at chapter 20. We've been reading, and for those of you who have been following us, we truly thank you as we continue forth in reading the 21st to the 23rd chapter of the book of Genesis. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, when Sarah bore to him Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old, and his son Isaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, God hath made me to laugh, so that at that here will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of the bondwoman. And all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness to Beersheba. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. And she went and sat her down over against him in a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, let me not see the death of my child. And she sat over against him, and lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. And the angel of God called to Hagar out of the heaven, and said unto her, wilt Allah alienate thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew, and dealt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dealt in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, a chief captain, host, spoke unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Know therefore, swear unto me, here my God, till thou art not deal falsely with me, not with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me into the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants laid violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I wot not who hath done this thing, neither didst thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it. But today, and Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abimelech sent 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, what mean these 7 ewe lambs which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, for these 7 ewe lambs shalt thou take of my hand, and they may be a witness unto me that I have digged this well. Wherefore he called the place Beersheba, because there they swore both of them. Thus they made the covenant of Beersheba. Then Abimelech rose up, the Phicol and chief captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in the Beersheba, and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abimelech sojourned in the Philistines' land many days. Chapter 22. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, behold, here I am. And he said, take now thy son, thy only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave of wood from the burnt offerings, and rose up and went up to the place which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto this young man, abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood and the burnt offering, and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand, and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spoke unto Abraham his father, and said, my father. And he said, here am I, my son. And he said, behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, my son, God will provide himself a lamb for the burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called out upon him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here I am. And he said, Lay not thy hand upon thy lad, neither do thy anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him to a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh, and that is said to this day, in mountain of the Lord, and it shall be seen. And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of the heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn with the Lord, and because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thy only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as a star in the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the sea shore, and thy seed shall possess a gate of his enemies, and in the seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned unto his young man, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things that it is told Abraham, saying, Behold, Melech shall have also borne children unto thy brother Nahor, Huz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Camel the father of Aram, and Cheest, and Hazel, and Phidas, and Philiph, and Bethel. And Bethel begot Rebekah, and these 8 Milcah did bear, and Nahor, Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Reumah, and bore also Teba, and Gaham, and Tahash, and Maacah. Chapter 23. And Sarah was 170 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kirjath Arba, and the same is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to the mourn for Sarah, and to weep for her. And Abraham stood up before his dead, and spoke unto the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger in a sojourn with you. Give me the possessions of the burying place with you, and I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying unto him, Hear us, my Lord, thou art a mighty prince among us. In the choice of our scepters bury thy dead. None of this shall withhold from thee his scepter, and thou mayest bury thy dead. And Abraham stood up and built himself to the people in the land, even to the children of Heth. And he communed with them, saying, If it be your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat me, the Ephraim and the son of Zohar, that he may give me a cave, a Machpelah, with he hath, which is in the end of which his field, and has much money, as it is worth, he shall give it to me for possession of a burying place amongst you. And Ephraim dealt among the children of Heth, and Ephraim the Hittite answered Abram in the audience, of the children of Heth, even of all that went in the gate of the city, saying, Nay, my Lord, hear me. The field give I thee, and to give it is therein, and I give it to thee in the presence of the sons of my people, give it I thee. Bury thy dead. And Abraham bowed down himself before the people in the land, and he spoke unto Ephraim in the audience of the people in the land, saying, But if thou wilt give it, I pray thee, hear me, I will give thee money for the field. Take it of me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephraim answered Abraham, saying unto him, My Lord, hearken unto me, and the land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is it that betwixt me to thee? Bury therefore thy dead. And Abraham hearkened unto Ephraim, and Abraham weighed to Ephraim the silver which he had named in the audience of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money, with the merchant. And the field of Ephraim, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field, and the cave which was therein, then all the trees and therein the field, that were in all the borders round about, there made, and all the borders round about were made. Ensure Abraham for the possession in the presence of the children of Heth, before all that went in the gate of the city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre. And the same is Hebron, in the land of Canaan, in the field of the cave that is therein, were made sure unto Abraham for the possession of the burying place by the sons of Heth. This concludes our reading of Genesis chapters 21 to 23. Thank you, and God bless.